Alright guys, welcome to the next lesson. So now that we know the basics of how to create a website using ChatGPT, of course the next step is to learn how to get this website out into the world so other people can actually look at and interact with your amazing website. And of course what we really want is for people to see the amazing website we are going to make in the next part of this course and hire you to make such a website for them as well. But to do this, there are two things we need to set up first. A domain and hosting. A domain is the address to a website that allows other people to find your website when they type it into the browser or a search engine. For Google, for instance, the domain is google.com. Web hosting is a service that provides the storage space for all the files of a website and provides a fast connection of the website to the internet. Web hosting is what allows you to publish your website to the internet. Unfortunately, this is where everything stops being free. A domain typically will cost a few dollars and web hosting will cost around $3 to $9 per month, depending on the type of plan you go for, how many websites can be hosted, the storage space, etc. But of course what we get in return is far more valuable, namely your own place on the internet where people can find you, services you may offer, products you may want to sell, or ideas or thoughts that you may want to publish. So let's first look at web hosting. There are many different options to host your own website, so we did a simple Google search to look for the most easy to use web hosting services, and consistently we saw SiteGround in the top 3. We also had used SiteGround in the past, so we decided to go with this. And what's also really nice about SiteGround, especially if you're just getting started with web design, is that their hosting plans also include a free domain, so we can get two birds with one stone. Of course, you are free to use any other service for web hosting or any other domain provider. We will be showing how to set up everything on SiteGround, but you will be able to find tutorials on how to set up almost any web hosting service out there. So to get to SiteGround easily, you can simply type into your browser designers.com/hosting. That's DESAINERS.com/hosting. Now, in all disclosure, this is an affiliate link, so at no extra cost to you, we will be paid a little bit by SiteGround, which massively helps us out in making us able to do what we do and to take the time to continuously add to this course to give you as much value as possible. Again, do feel free to use any other hosting service as you wish. Alright, so SiteGround, as you can see, has a couple of different types of hosting plans. So we can do WordPress hosting, for instance, which is going to make integrating WordPress on our website a little bit easier, or we can just do regular web hosting. For right now, we can just go for normal web hosting, and we can also always integrate WordPress on normal web hosting as well. So right here, there are 3 different plans in the normal web hosting. All of these plans, as you can see, include the free domain. It also includes free SSL that encrypts and secures your website, which is pretty nice because on different hosting platforms you often have to pay extra for that. And they also all include free CDN, which basically makes it so that your website will be quickly accessible all over the world. And then finally, also all of these have a 30-back money guarantee. So if you don't want to continue with this, or there is some problem you find on SiteGround, you want to switch, or whatever it may be, you are able to get a free refund within 30 days. Alright, so I think for most of you this Go Geek plan is not really going to be worth it, at least in the beginning. You can always upgrade to this later. So then the decision is going to be between the Startup plan or the Grow Big plan. And the biggest advantage of the Grow Big plan, in my opinion, is the unlimited websites. So you're able to host multiple domains and multiple websites on this plan, and here you're only able to host one website. So if you just want to follow along for this course and don't really plan to do anything else, then the starter plan would be great for you, and of course you can always upgrade later. But if you do want to set up a couple of websites, for instance one website with your first and last name and one website for your brand or your business, then this Grow Big plan would be perfect. And besides the unlimited websites, there are also some other benefits of this plan. For instance, you get twice the storage. So if you want to put a lot of images or videos on your website, this would be better. You also get 10 times the amount of visitors that you are allowed to get monthly. And as you can see below here, the website is going to be a little bit faster, and you get to have on-demand backup copies, which can sometimes be quite nice to have. Alright, so you can choose your plan. I'm going to go with the Grow Big one. And then once you select that, you're able to either register a new domain, or say that you already have a domain, you're able to link it to this domain. So I'm going to create a new domain. Right here you can just basically search for anything that you want your domain to be. I would always recommend to get your first and last name as a domain, domain, so you can have the website of your name, or of course the name of your business. Now, besides the domain name itself, you're able to choose the extension that you want to have with it. So I'm in the Netherlands, so automatically it's going to give me the extension NL, but I can also just change this to, for instance, .com or .org or .net. And also, for instance, if I want to have my own name as a domain, so that's Larno Visser, I can click here on proceed, but it's going to tell me that it's not available. And that's of course because I already bought the domain larnovisser.com. But if I now change this to larnovisser.org, for instance, and I click proceed, then I am able to do it because larnovisser.org is still free. So let me go back to choose domain because that's not actually the one that I want to go for. So the domain I want to register right now is ChatGPT web design. And I want that to be a .com. So let's see if that's free. And it's free, that's nice, there we go. Alright, so right here it's going to ask us to fill in all our personal information and our payment details. And then right here we can also select if we want the 12-month plan, so we have to pay in advance for 1 year, or if you want to pay monthly, but then it's going to be a lot more expensive. So I would recommend doing the 1 year in advance payment. And then right here there are also some extra services, for instance domain privacy or a site scanner. I'm not going to select those, but you're free to if you want any of those extra services. And finally right here you can select your data center. And so if you have an audience in a specific continent, you can select a data center that is close to that audience, and otherwise you can just leave it as it is in the default. So go ahead and fill in your information and hit pay now, and I will do the same. Alright, so once you finish paying, it will typically take a few minutes before you can log in, but once that's ready, you can just go to login and log in using the username and password you have just created. Alright, so right here it says we can verify our domain. We will do that later. First, let's go to websites. And right here it says setup incomplete. It could also say pending. And if we just click finish site setup, we can select the domain we just created, hit continue. And now let's skip this and create an empty site. And of course they're going to try to upsell us, but let's scroll down and hit finish. And then it will load for 1 or 2 minutes. And congratulations, your website has been created. So we can now copy our domain that we created. Go to the browser, fill it in and hit enter. And there we go, that's our website. Of course, this is just the landing page of SiteGround, but we are now able to fill this with our own content. So let's close that for now. And there are a few more things we want to do to set up our website. So let's go to Site Tools. So the first thing we want to do is secure our website. As you can see, if we go to my website, ChatGPTwebdesign.com, you can see this log is already there. And this log basically means that it is encrypted and secured. So if this doesn't show up for you, you can go to Site Tools, click Security, SSL Manager, and then right here you can select your domain and you can click Let's Encrypt. And for me, this is already selected. If not, you can select Let's Encrypt, click Get. And then there's one more step. If you go to HTTPS Enforce, we can enforce that right there, flip that switch, and then all the security of your website is settled. Alright, so now of course we want to see our website actually being online. So to do that, it's really easy. You can just go to Site, click File Manager, and then right here we have this folder named Public HTML. We can double click that, and here we see the default.html page that we get right here as our default landing page if we haven't actually uploaded any content yet. So let's go to SiteGround, and now to get the website that we made in Visual Studio Code in here, we can just paste all the files in our Visual Studio Code folder in here. So right here I have all those files, and let's drag them all into that public HTML folder on SiteGround. And there we go, 13 files uploaded successfully. And right now it is important that we have one file named index.html, or it could also be index.php, but probably you'll have an index.html file, and that's supposed to be the front page of the website. And this is what SiteGround is going to search for, and it's going to place this page as the front page of our website. So our website could actually be online already right now. So if we go here and we hit refresh, we can see it hasn't updated yet, which is also possible. So if it's not online for you, as it's for me, you can go to SiteGround and then go to Speed and hit Caching. And then let's go to Dynamic Cache. And right here, we can hit Flush Cache to clean the memory of our website so that it will update nicely. And there we go. So now it should be all working if we refresh this page. And there we go. That's our website actually online. Anyone in the world could now go to this domain and find our website. Alright, so in the rest of this section, we are actually going to create a new website on our SiteGround hosting. And hopefully we are going to make that website look a little bit nicer than this one. And also learn quite a few new things as well to, for instance, make the website responsive so that it also looks nice on mobile, and a lot of other useful things as well. So see you in the next lesson. Alright guys, welcome to the next lesson. In this one, we will look at what kind of website we are going to make, and also look at how we can make this website responsive, which means the website will also look good on tablets and mobile, which is done by making the layout of the website update with the screen size, which is very important since most people these days will see your website on mobile. So let's first look at the website we are going to make. There are many different types of websites we could make. There are blog websites, e-commerce website, portfolio websites, personal websites, and many more. Of course, a personal website would be nice to have for most of you, but the content of such a website would differ widely depending on who you are and how you want to portray yourself. So I think by far the most valuable type of website is a lead generation website, and learning how such a website works and how you can make one, I think would be a very valuable lesson for all of you. So a lead generation website is aimed at converting website visitors into leads that you can later sell to by, for instance, having them leave their email address. People typically do not like to give their email address because they are afraid of spam in their inbox. So to convince them, the website should offer some value to the visitors. We are going to try to get leads for our freelance AI-assisted web design company. So we will have to convince people such a service is valuable to them. And another thing we can do to collect people's email address is to offer a free downloadable product that people can get after they leave their email address. So we could, for instance, offer a small document explaining the basics of AI-assisted web design in exchange for people's email address. And then, of course, once we have the lead, once we have the email address, we could send them emails to try to convert that lead into an actual paying customer. But that's a little bit out of the scope for this course. So we now know what type of website we want to make and have a rough idea of what content we want to have in the website, but we don't have any idea yet what the visual design of the website should look like. It is always possible to just start building a website and changing or adding things later, like we did with our first website. But to get a really nice result as quickly as possible, it is best to have some inspiration or a template of what we want the website to look like. Alright, so we can always just go to Google and type in web design to find inspiration, but I actually found that using Pinterest for web design inspiration is one of the best places to go. So to get to Pinterest, let's just type in Pinterest and hit enter. And let's go to the first link that we get. And then we can just scroll down to discover. So this is in Dutch, but this says discover in English. And then at the top right here, we can just type in web design and hit enter. And right here, you can find the designs of many amazing websites. So I scrolled through this a little bit and I actually think this is a very nice web design. So as you can see, it has the navigation bar on top with a transparent background, and the whole page looks kind of dark and futuristic, which I really like. And then once you click a design, you can always scroll down and find more like that design. And there actually was one other design I saw that I also really liked. So let's duplicate this tab and let's go back. And then let's scroll down a little bit. And there we go. This one I also really liked. So the point of this inspiration is not to copy these exactly, but just to get a rough idea of some of the elements in here that you like and that you want to implement on your own website. And you could of course also find some inspiration in the colors that they use that you think look good. So to save these images, you could make a screenshot of them, or you could log in and save them on your Pinterest account. Alright, so now we know what type of website we want, roughly what the content of the website should be, and we also have some inspiration of what we want the website to look like. We can almost get started building the website, but before we do that in the next lesson, let's first look at how we can make the website responsive. So as you can see in this example web page design, often there are these sections that have an image on one side and text on the other side. This looks really good on a desktop, but if you would put these next to each other on a much smaller screen like on mobile, the text would have to be so small that it wouldn't be readable anymore. So what we want is for this website to update such that when the screen gets too small for the elements to be displayed nicely, the layout changes and updates to accommodate the smaller screen and still look good and readable. For these sections with images and text, for instance, it would be nice if at a certain screen size, instead of being next to one another, they would switch to being stacked vertically, so both the image and the text use the full screen width. So before we look at how we can actually do that to make that website responsive, let's first get an example web page with images on one side and text on the other side. So let's go to ChatGPT and let's type, give me a simple website with two sections. The first with an image on the left and text on the right, and the second with text on the left and an image on the right. And let's hit enter. Alright, so here we have the HTML code, and it looks like it actually wrote the CSS code internally instead of giving us a separate file. And right here, even without asking it, it set the section to display type flex, which is actually the first way to make a website responsive that we will discuss later. So now let's just copy this code, and I went ahead and created an empty website with just an empty index.html and style.css file. And it looks like we are not going to use this style.css because, as I said, it placed the CSS code internally in the head section. So let's see what this looks like in preview and default browser. And there we go, and of course we don't have images at this point, so let me just quickly grab some images and put them in there. Alright, so here we have these two very basic sections with image on one side, text on the other side. And now if we make this browser smaller, you can see what happens when we make it too small. So right here you can see this image is getting cut off on the side, and the text right here is going to overlap the image. And basically, if you saw this website on a mobile phone, you would just not be able to read it at all. So let's now look into some ways that we can make this website responsive. So there are a few ways to make a website responsive, but we are going to work with the Flexbox and the add media rule. Both of these can simply be implemented in our CSS code. Flexbox is a module within CSS that can be used for responsive layouts. It works with flex containers and flex items in the containers. So if the CSS of a section is set to flex, like we saw in our example, which ChatGPT already gave us right here, display set to flex, then all the direct child elements of that section in the HTML code will also be set to flex items. A flex container can be set to automatically change the layout of its content when the space available for its item changes. So for instance, a smaller screen could push items from side to side to below each other. Some important properties of Flexbox in CSS are flex wrap, flex direction, justify content, and align items. So for instance, in our example, we could make this more responsive by writing flex wrap and set that value to wrap. So now as you can see here, the class sections are all set to flex. So right here we have class section, and right here as well. And as I explained in the explanation of Flexbox, if a section is set to flex, then all its direct children are set to flex elements as well. But right here, we have this class section, its direct child is this other division. So this is going to be a flex item, and right here as well for this text division. But the children of those children will not be flex items. And that's actually what we want. So as you can see right now, if we go to open in default browser, the page is not yet responsive, and actually, as you can see right here, this text part has a width of 50 and this image also has a width of 50, and there's also a slight margin, so now they actually will never be able to fit on one line. So let's just change this to be 30 and this as well to be 30, and let's hit Ctrl S to save it, and let's go to the preview. And now you can see they are on one line, so we have the image on the left, text on the right, and here in reverse. But if we now make this smaller, it will still overlap, even though we have the flex wrap set to wrap. But that's because this only applies to the direct children of this section, which is these divisions, and that's not where the actual content is. So we can remove these division parts, these division tags right here. And now we've removed them for the top section and left them in place for the bottom section. So let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And let's go to the preview in the default browser. And right now these top items, so this paragraph and this image, should be responsive and these two shouldn't be. So let's see if we make this smaller. And right there you can see, as soon as the browser hits the width of this paragraph, it's going to jump below there. So it's going to wrap around the other image. And if we make it even smaller, you can still, it all still looks nice, unlike here. So not all layout or appearance problems you run into when you make a website responsive can be solved with Flexbox. For instance, if you want to make the font size to be smaller for mobile than for desktop. Such specific changes for smaller screens can be made using the Add Media rule. This allows you to set specific CSS declarations that only apply when the screen is a certain size. So this is how you use the Add Media rule. In your CSS code, you can simply write Add Media, screen and max width or min width, and then a certain pixel size. And then you can just set regular CSS code with a selector, a property and a value. And then that CSS code will apply only when the screen is at that size. And when the screen is at that size, the CSS code within the Add Media function will have priority over the other CSS code. So if you set the font size of a certain paragraph to be 16 when the screen is below a certain amount of pixels, and in your regular CSS code to have it set to 20. The font size will always be 20 unless the screen is below that certain amount of pixels. There are also some conventional screen sizes for desktop, tablet and mobile that you can use in the Add Media function to create separate layouts for both desktop, tablet and mobile. So sometimes it will also be better to not just change the layout at a certain screen size, but sometimes you may want to remove an element completely from a mobile version. And you can do this by, in the Add Media function below a certain screen size, for a certain HTML element, writing the declaration display none. And this will hide the entire element when the screen is below a certain size. Alright, so let's now make this website responsive using the Add Media function. So first we want to remove this flex wrap because that already makes it responsive. And then in this section, let's set a function flex direction. And let's set that to row. So now all the elements in this section will be displayed as a row, so next to one another. And now we want below a certain screen size to switch from row to column so that they are below one another. So let's write a media function. So let's write add media and let's go to media screen and let's hit enter. And then we can hit space and between brackets write max dash width colon 900 pixels. And then below there, let's write dot section so that we have the same selector that we have right here. And then let's write curly brackets and again write flex direction. And let's now set it to column. And let's put a semicolon behind that. And actually right here behind screen, we have to write end. So media screen and max width 900 pixels. So right now what this should do is in the regular screen size, the flex direction should be row. And then once we drop below 900 pixels, it should switch to being a column. So they should be stacked vertically. So let's hit Ctrl S and let's hit preview in the default browser. And there we go. So now if we make this window smaller, so right here you can see nothing really changes. But once we drop below 900 pixels, right there, it switches to being stacked vertically in a column. And we could also do some other things. So for instance, right here, we could write dot text and put curly brackets. And let's write font size. And let's write a colon. And let's set the font size to be 20 pixels once the screen is smaller than 900 pixels. So let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And let's go to the preview in the default browser. And now if we make this smaller, right here you can see this text updated. And that's actually because right here in our code, the .text class is applied to this whole section and not to the actual paragraph. So if I would put the class text on this paragraph as well, so class equals text and it's Ctrl S, then this should also apply to this paragraph right now. So let's go to the preview. And as you can see, this text is now 20 pixels, just like this one. And then once we go above 900 pixels in screen width, it will turn smaller again. So those are the basics of how you can make a website responsive Of course, we will not have to do this ourselves because ChatGPT will be able to do this for us. But it's nice to understand the basics of how this works. And now you, for instance, know that you can ask ChatGPT to give you a separate CSS file for the mobile version. And then you can just put that in the media screen function to have a nice responsive website. And also, as we will see in the next lesson, we can just ask ChatGPT to create a whole website using these flex boxes so that the whole website is automatically responsive. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we are actually going to start to make the new lead generating website. See you in that one. Alright guys, welcome back to the next lesson. In this one, we will start creating our amazing website. We are eventually going to publish this website on our online hosting, but for designing the website, we can still just use Visual Studio Code. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and let's go to File and let's click Open Folder. And right here in our Visual Studio Codes folder, let's hit the right mouse button and go to New and create a new folder. And let's name that my_amazing_website. And let's hit enter and let's also select that folder and right here click select folder. And this is going to be the new folder we were going to create our new website. And let's immediately create 3 files. So the first one is going to be index.html. It's going to be the HTML file for our new website. Then let's make a style sheet. So style.css and let's hit enter, and then let's immediately also make a script file for our JavaScript. So let's name that script.js and let's hit enter. And now before we get started, let's also upgrade Visual Studio Code a little bit. So let's go to extensions and we are going to install 2 new extensions. The first one is going to be called Prettier. So let's type that in and let's select the one with 28 million downloads or more. And let's click install. And what Prettier is going to do is every time we save any code file, it's going to automatically format it for us. And since now we are probably going to work with a bit more code, there is a chance that it will get a little bit more messy as well. So having it automatically formatted for us will be very nice to have. So that's the first extension we are going to download. Now let's also download Live Server. So let's hit enter and let's download the one with 30 million downloads and let's hit install. And what this is going to do is every time we save our HTML file, as you can see below here, it will automatically update the changes on our website. So we don't have to open a new preview or refresh the browser every time. It will just automatically update right there. So we can quickly make changes and quickly see what we are changing. So those are the 2 extensions that we want to download. Now we can start creating the website. Right, so let's go to ChatGPT and let's create a new chat. And let's look at the inspiration images that we selected last lesson. So we had this one and we found this one. And both of them have this very nice large image as the background for the header section. As you can see here as well, this background universe or cosmos image. And both of them also have the navigation bar at the top, which I really like. That looks a lot more clean than having it below the header as we had in our last website. And then both of them have just a few sections that are nicely formatted as well. So the way we are going to create this website right now is by starting to ask ChatGPT to give us a large framework with most of the sections that we want in the website. And then later we can ask it to change or update or add separate sections, because asking it to create a whole website code every time is going to be very difficult if we have a large website. So for this first prompt, I'm going to ask it to just give us some of these basic sections that we see here. And I'm also going to immediately ask it to make everything responsive right away as well. So I'm going to ask it, make a landing page using HTML and CSS with an interactive navbar at the top, a welcome image with a welcome text displayed in the middle. And I want the image to take up the full screen space when we open the website. So I'm going to tell it this image should be the entire height and width of the viewport. And then below this image, once we scroll, I want some different sections. So I'm going to ask it and add the following sections underneath the welcome image, all displayed in their own section: an about section, a project section, who we are section, email list sign up section, and contact section. And I'm going to want this all to be responsive using Flexbox. So I'm going to ask it all using Flexbox for responsiveness. And let's see if it can do that for us. Alright, so it looks like it gave us the CSS code internally. So it's writing all the CSS code in the style tag in the head section. And it didn't manage to finish this, so I'm going to ask it to continue. Alright, so it looks like it was able to finish it on the second try. So let's just copy this code right here. And let's go to our Visual Studio Code. Let's go to the HTML file. Let's paste that. And then let's scroll down to the bottom of where it ended the first part of the code. And then let's copy this second part. And let's just paste that below that. And then we are actually going to want to place this CSS code in our separate CSS file. So let's copy that, or let's actually hit Ctrl X to cut that away there. And let's go to the style.css, let's paste that. Let's hit Ctrl S. Let's go to the HTML part and let's also remove these style tags. So now the only thing we have to do is link this HTML file to this CSS file, or actually link the CSS file to the HTML file. So we could try writing it ourselves, but of course we don't want to write any code ourselves if we don't have to. So let's just go to ChatGPT and ask it, I have a separate style.css file. Give the code to link to this in my HTML file. And let's hit enter. And there we have exactly what we need. So let's copy this part. And it's also telling us we have to place it in the head, which we of course already knew. So let's go to the head tag. Let's paste that right there. And let's hit Ctrl S. And let's see what this website looks like. Alright, so that already looks pretty good. We have this welcome text right here. We have the navigation bar at the top, nicely spaced out. And here we have some different sections, and it looks like the gradient of gray gets a little bit darker with every section, which is also pretty cool. And let's see if this website is responsive. And as you can see, the text updated and stayed in the middle. This all looks good as well still, but let's make it smaller. And it all still looks pretty good. Now, of course, we don't have any sections yet with multiple elements next to each other, so we can't really see how responsive this website is, but for a start, it looks pretty good. And actually, I saw something weird in the HTML code for the navbar, so let's see if the navbar actually works. And it looks like the navigation bar does not work. And I think I saw why, because right here in the navigation bar, it says ahref, and it says just a hashtag. So this is really where the weakness of ChatGPT is in web design, which is that it often fails to link everything together. The separate sections it will most often give perfectly, but we have to always check if everything is linked properly. And this is where it's also nice to have some understanding of the actual code. So we could of course ask ChatGPT to link the navbar to the right sections, but then it would have to give the entire code again, because it would also have to update all the section tags to include an ID that it can then refer to in the navigation bar. And I think it would be a lot faster if we just quickly change that ourselves. So in all of these sections, we can simply, in the section tag behind where it now defines the class of that section, we can just type ID and it will autocomplete if we just hit enter. And then this is the welcome section. So let's just type welcome dash section. And then right here in the navigation behind the hashtag, we can just type welcome dash section. And now this hashtag will refer to the ID welcome section, which is here. So it will scroll to that place. And now I'm going to do that for all the sections. There we go. So I added the IDs to all the sections and added them here as well. And I also noticed that in the navigation bar, there is no email sign up section included. So let's copy one of these lines and let's paste that right there. And let's change this section ID to email list sign up section. And right here, this text is what's going to be displayed on the navbar that we can actually see. So let's write there sign up. And now instead of going to preview in default browser, as we did last time, I actually forgot we have the live server installed now. So if we go to the bottom right and click go live, this is going to open up the live server that will actually update automatically once we save it. So we can put this on the right here and put our code on the left. And then let's make this a little bit smaller so we have a little bit more room for the code. And now every time we save this file, this should update automatically. So if we, for instance, delete this navigation bar and hit Ctrl S right here, then this will update and the navigation bar will immediately be gone. So let's undo that, hit Ctrl Z, there we go. And let's hit Ctrl S to update that. And there's the bar again, and this should now also actually work. So we see the sign up tab is added here. So let's click that and it jumps us to the email list sign up. So now the navbar actually works. Alright, so now that we have the navbar working, let's also try to make it look a little bit nicer. So let's go to ChatGPT and let's type, this is the CSS code for my navbar. And then let's go to our Visual Studio Code. Let's go to style.css and let's copy these parts of the navbar. And let's go to ChatGPT and write a colon and hit Ctrl V to place that. And then let's type, please give the navbar a modern font and make the background transparent and the text black. And let's hit enter. And there we go. So let's copy that code and let's go to Visual Studio Code. We still have this selected, so let's just hit Ctrl V to replace it. And let's hit Ctrl S and go to our live server. So there we go, we have this transparent navbar at the top, and I actually think it would look nicer if all the letters here were capitalized. So we can just go to the HTML part and change that right here. So I'm going to do that for all those tabs. And let's hit Ctrl S to see what that looks like. And there we go. Alright, so that's a nice start for making a cool navigation bar. So now I want to pimp it a little bit more. So let's go back to ChatGPT and let's type, this is the HTML of my navbar. And let's write a colon and let's go to the HTML of the navbar. Let's hit Ctrl C and let's place that in there. Ctrl V and let's continue typing. And this is my CSS code of the navbar. And let's write a colon and let's go to our style.css file and let's copy the CSS of the navbar. And let's place that right there. And now let's see what we want to change. So instead of this home button, I would like a place for a logo image of our website. And I actually want to create an effect that once you hover over one of these buttons, you can actually see it's a button. So I want a box to appear around it once I hover over it. So let's see if we can ask ChatGPT to do that. So I'm going to type, for the link to the top of that page that now says home, I instead want a small image for the logo of the website that when clicked will scroll all the way up to the welcome section, and add a box around the nav elements to ease in when you hover over it. And let's see what it gives us. Awesome, so it looks like it actually did everything we asked it. So let's copy this HTML code and let's place that instead of the navigation we have right now. There we go. And let's go to the CSS code, copy all of that, and let's go to the style and replace the current navigation CSS. And let's open the live server so we can immediately see the updates. So let's hit Ctrl S on the HTML file and Ctrl S on the CSS file as well. And it looks like it did the logo part correctly. So here on the left we have this logo, and of course we don't have an image here right now, so it just says logo. And right here it did add a box around all the separate pieces, and it's still functional. But what I actually wanted is a box to appear around only the section I hover over. So let's try again if we can do that. So I'm going to ask, please change the CSS code you just provided to have individual boxes around each of the nav elements and make the box only appear and ease in when we hover over that specific nav element. When I do not hover over a nav element, I want the box to be transparent. And let's see if it does it right now. Alright, so it looks like it only gave us the updated CSS code of the navbar part, so not of the image. So we have to be sure to not replace the image part of our CSS code. So let's hit copy code and let's open Visual Studio Code, and let's actually shrink this a little bit so we can see both the new CSS code and the old CSS code. So it looks like it didn't replace this section and this section either. So this .navbar A we can delete, and it looks like we can also delete these parts. So let's copy this code and let's go to Visual Studio Code and place that below there. And let's open our live server. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S and see if that works. So the logo is still intact. And if we hover over it, there's this dash below it. So it's not an entire box, but at least it's a nice hover effect. Alright guys, so that's it for this lesson. We created a nice framework for the website, and in the next lesson we are going to focus on creating some content for the website. So we are going to be generating a nice background image, a logo, and we are going to have ChatGPT write the text for all of these sections. And we are also going to look at colors in the next lesson. So see you in that one. Alright guys, welcome to the next lesson. In this one we are going to be creating the content of our website. So I think we can start by creating a large background image for this header section, and then we can also start creating a logo. And both of these we are going to generate using AI, similar to how we did in the previous website. But instead of using the free version of OpenAI, we are now going to use DALL-E, which is also by OpenAI, so the same company that produced ChatGPT. But DALL-E 2 is a far more advanced version than the actual free version that you can use. And also for DALL-E, we can create 50 free images before we have to actually pay. So for our purposes, that will still be free. So to get to DALL-E 2, we can go to the browser and simply type in labs.openai.com. And let's hit enter. And that's going to bring us to DALL-E. Now I'm already automatically logged in, but if you're not, you can log in with the same account that you used to log into ChatGPT. So if this is the first time you logged into DALL-E, you should have 50 free credits. So we can write 50 prompts, and each prompt will give us 4 images. And if you want to learn more about the amazing things you can do using DALL-E, you can look into the documentation. You can also look at these example images, and if you hover over them, you see the prompt that was used to create that image. And if you are interested in learning more about artificially generated content, so images, animation, etc., I'm also working on a course specifically for AI generated content, so look out for that. But for right now, let's first create a large background image right here. And what I want is an image with the cosmos on the background, as we see here, but in the center I want to have a large brain that's sort of computerized and futuristic looking. And I'm gonna want mostly dark colors with a little bit of purple in there. So let's go to DALL-E, and I'm going to type a mechanical astral brain in the cosmos. And now I'm just going to add some more descriptors to it. So I'm going to add dark void, dark colors, bright highlights, purple, artificial brain, and digital art. And let's see what that gives us. Awesome, so some of these already look really cool. I'm just going to hit generate one more time to see what it gives us. Awesome, so these look really cool. I think this one looks the best. And if you go up here, you can simply go to previous generations by clicking over there. And I think this one looks really cool, but I actually like this one better. So I'm going to click that one. And now we can actually further enhance this image. So we could do variations, and this is going to create 4 variations using this image as a starting point. So if you're not quite happy with this result, you could do that, but that's also going to cost you a credit. And you can also hit edit. And here we can erase parts of the image, and then we can type in something to have it replace that part, which is very cool. So we could, for instance, erase this whole bottom part right here and tell it to fill it in with a face. And we can also, if we go down here to add generation frame, we can make the image larger than it is right now. And since if we go to the landing page, since it's not going to be a square image, but more like a broad rectangular image, it might be good to add a little bit to the side here. So we can add a generation frame on this right side and hit generate. And that extended the image for us. And we have 4 options down here that we can choose from. So right here it added this little highlight, and here it didn't add anything. Here it added this weird lighter section, which I don't really like. And here it also just added one little highlight. So I'm going to go to the first one that I like most, and I'm going to hit accept. And then I'm going to do that again on the other side, like that. And I'm going to hit generate. And it looks like it finished. And for the first one, it just left it blank, which is pretty weird. But this is still in beta, so that's to be expected. And there it popped up, and it just left it black. And if I go to the other ones, it looks like they all just leave it black. But we do have a nice extended image right now, so let's hit accept. And now we can download this image right here. And then we can just put this image in the Visual Studio Code folder for our website, and then we can refer to it later. But for now, let's first go back here and create the second image that we want. So let's delete this prompt. And for this second image, I want to create this logo. So I'm going to want sort of a web design logo, but also an artificial intelligence logo. And I want it to be simplistic. And I also here want to use the color purple. So let's go to the prompt. All right, guys. So as you can see here, I actually spent quite a while trying to create a nice web design logo, but none of these really looked right. And it also kept giving me text with the logo, which made it look very weird because AI is not very good at generating images of text because it's just going to amalgamate a lot of different text together, as you can see here. So in the prompt, I even tried writing no text, and as you can see, it still just kept adding the text to the logo, and also the logos didn't really look too nice. So I tried around on the free version of the image generation of OpenAI to see what prompts would produce a nice logo, and I think I found it. So if we go back to the front page, instead of logo, we're going to type symbol. So I'm going to type symbol of artificial intelligence and web design, simple, geometric shapes, purple, and finally white background. And let's add a space between web and design, and let's hit generate. Alright, so I think this one already looks pretty cool, so we could generate some variations, but I'm just going to hit generate again and see what it gives us. And I'm going to try one more time. And there we go, and I actually like this one quite a bit. And I'm just going to edit it to remove the text down here. So let's select that with the eraser tool and remove that. And let's hit generate. So that should just remove it and leave it blank. And there we go. So let's grab this one and I'm going to download that. And now since this is going to be the logo, it's going to be right here on the top left. And I'm actually also going to want to make this navigation bar transparent. So I want the background of this image to be transparent as well, so that we only have the PNG of the actual shapes here. So to do that, as we did in the last website, we can go to remove.bg and we can upload our image. There we go, and as you can see, it automatically removes the background for us. And it even removes these inner lines, so they will be transparent as well, which is fine by me. So let's download that. And this is only going to be a 500 by 500 image. But since we are going to use it as the logo, it's going to be very small anyway, so that doesn't really matter. So right now I'm going to place this image and the previous one in the Visual Studio Code folder of the website we are working on. And I'll see you when I've done that. Alright, so there we are. And as you can see right here, we have the large background brain image, and here we have the logo. And I'm actually going to rename that quickly to AI_logo.png, and let's hit enter. And let's first add the large background image. So if we go to our HTML code, right here we have the welcome section. So that's going to be this whole section, the whole header section. And as you can see, there's no image right here, but that's because if we go to our CSS code of the welcome section, if we scroll down right here, it actually added the background image in the CSS code. So here it has the URL of an example image, and we can just remove that and replace it by the link to our background image. So let's just type back, and there it autocompletes. Let's hit enter. There we go. Now if we hit Ctrl S and we go to our website, there we go. There we have that nice large background image with the nice colors. So that's the first image added. Let's go to Visual Studio Code again, and let's add the second image. Now I think the logo is actually in our HTML. So if we go to the nav bar, right here we can see image logo.png, and that's just the example that ChatGPT gave us, but let's change that to AI_logo, which is what we called our image. And then let's hit Ctrl S and let's go to our website, and there we have our artificial intelligence logo. Now this is a little small, so we can just go to our CSS code and see how it's formatted. So right here we have this navbar image, and it says height 50 pixels and width 50 pixels. So we can maybe change that to be 80 and 80 pixels. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S and see how that looks. And that looks a little bit nicer. And then also I don't really like how it's all the way on the left right here, and all these tabs are all the way on the right. So if we go to our Visual Studio Code, you can see right here there is the navbar, and that's set to flex. And if we go to our HTML, you can see we have this navbar element, and then we have two sub elements. So we have this image right here, and then right here we have all the links as other elements. So then this image part and this whole part are both flex items. So they are not all flex items. So all the tabs separately are not flex items. So if you go to the CSS, and right here in the navbar it says justify content space between. So it's space between the image and the rest of the tabs. And we can look at the cheat sheet that we provided in the responsiveness lesson. And right here at justify content, in our CSS it says justify content space between. And right here justify content, if you go to space between, you can see it's going to be stretched out throughout the entire width that's available, and then the space between the elements is going to be equal. And since we only have 2 elements, it's going to be one element all the way on the left and the other one all the way at the right. And I think right here, space evenly is going to be better, so that on the left, on the right, and in the middle, the space is going to be the same. So we can just change that in our CSS code. Instead of space between, we can write space evenly, and it's Ctrl S, and go to our website, and there we go. Now we don't have this logo all the way on the left and this all the way on the right, but there's a nice balance between them. Alright, and now we are going to generate all the text for the website. So I'm gonna want a title and a little welcome message, an about section. For the project section, we are going to create an image slider, so we're not going to place any text there just yet. And we want a who we are section and perhaps a few lines convincing people to sign up for our email list. So let's go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to type, give an eye-catching title for a website of a freelance AI-assisted website designer of 2 to 4 words. Also give a welcome text for such a website of 2 short lines that convinces people to further explore the website. And also write an about section of roughly 300 words explaining how we generate the code and content of websites using artificial intelligence, which massively speeds up the web design process and allows for a lot of flexibility for the clients. And I'm also going to want it to give it to me in HTML code, so I'm going to add give these texts to me in HTML code. And I'm going to hit enter. And there we go, so we have a title, we have a welcome section, and we have the about section. Now I actually don't really like this title, so I'm going to ask it, give me 5 different website titles I can choose from for the freelance website of AI-assisted web design, where we use AI to generate the code and content of the website. And let's hit enter. And there we go, so we have 5 ideas we can choose from. And I'm actually going to combine 3 and 4, so I'm going to make it AI-powered design. So let's go to our code. So the title right here in the head section that's going to show up in the browser, let's change that to AI-powered design. And right here in the welcome section, let's make this H1 title. Instead of welcome to my landing page, let's make that AI-powered design as well. There we go. And then let's go to ChatGPT and let's copy this part right here. That's going to be the 2-line welcome text, and let's place that right here in this paragraph. There we go. And then let's copy the text of the about section. So it gave us 3 paragraphs. So let's copy this part just below this paragraph sign. So let's hit Ctrl C. And if we go here to the about section right here and we paste this, that should all be formatted properly right now. So let's hit Ctrl S and see what that looks like. So let's go here, and there we go. So we have AI powered design right here. We have it here in the browser as well. And this great hook right here, that's really going to make people want to scroll further. And here we have the text of the about section as well. Now I think this sign right here is a mistake we made. So let's go to the code. And right here, we see that tag part is double right there. So let's delete one. There we go. Let's hit Ctrl S. And now let's ask ChatGPT to create a who we are section. And let's also have it write a few lines to convince people to sign up for the email list section. So let's go to ChatGPT and I'm going to type, now also write a who we are section of around 300 words that explains we are a team of 2 enthusiastic web designers, one with a background in artificial intelligence, and one with a background in business and design, who use new innovative AI technology to quickly and flexibly generate the code and content of professional looking websites, and our purpose is to help people use these new technologies optimally and write a 2-line section that convinces people to sign up to our email list. And let's hit enter. And there we go. So right here we have this paragraph. So let's copy that until that tag right there. It's Ctrl C, let's go to our code. Here we have the who we are section. So here we have the paragraph, and let's place that in between there. There we go. And then let's go back to ChatGPT and scroll back here. And it actually gave us a whole email sign-up section with buttons and input fields and all. But we just want the title, join our email list. There we go. And let's go to the code. Let's replace our current title. There we go. Join our email list. Let's go back to ChatGPT and let's copy this paragraph as well. There we go. And let's go back to the code and paste that in as well. And there we go. Now let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And actually I see right here we made the same mistake. So let's delete that, hit Ctrl S, and let's go to the preview. And there we go, there we have a nice text, and here as well. Now that's it for this lesson with the content generation. In the next lesson we are going to continue working on the design of the website. See you in that lesson. Hi everyone, welcome to the next lesson. In this one we are going to continue working on the design of our website. So first we are going to look at color and how you can become an expert at using color in web design. So if we look at our CSS code, which is of course where we can apply the color to our website, there are a couple of different ways to denote color. First you can simply write red or blue or black or transparent. And then there are two ways to code the color. First, there is the RGB coding, that's red, green, blue coding, as you can see here, which gives a value of 0 to 225 for the redness, greenness and blueness, which when combined can produce all colors. And then there's also hexadecimal coding, which is another way to denote RGB, which also uses letters. And in Visual Studio Code we get this very nice interface to immediately pick the color we want, which is very useful to quickly make adjustments. Now there are a couple of tools that are very useful in choosing the right colors for our website. All of these will be linked in the description. So first there is the color picker tool on w3schools.com, which has a very nice interface, and you can just pick a starting color right here. So for example this green, and then you can immediately see right here how this works as the background for a text. So typically you will have white or black text, and you can see how readable the text is with the color you pick. And for instance here you can see this white text is not very readable, so we can make it a little bit darker, and there we go, and now it's very readable for white text and for black text as well. And then below here we can just copy this code and paste that in our Visual Studio Code in CSS, and it will apply exactly this color. So next, when you work with colors, it's typically not enough to just have one color. You typically are going to want a palette of different colors that work well together, and that's where coolors.co comes in, which is a very nice website with a very nice interface that you can use to assemble your own color palette. So if you click start a generator, you just get 5 random colors, and you can click the spacebar and that will continue to give you new random colors. So if you see a color that you really like or that you want to use, so for instance if I want to use this purple right here, I can click the lock to lock that in, and then once I keep pressing space, it will produce new colors for the other 4. And then once I see a color that I like, that fits with it well, for instance this blue looks pretty good, I can lock that in as well, and I can drag that over in this direction, and then I can just keep pressing the space button until I find a palette that I really like. And also right here you have this contrast checker that will tell you whether this color works as a good background for white text or black text. And as you can see, this color for instance does not work very well for white text, and it does work well for black text. So that's very nice to have integrated here as well. Now another way to find colors to work with is when you already have a large image that you want to use for your website that contains nice colors that you want to use, like this one for instance. You can actually just select those colors and get the color coding for those colors to use them in your CSS code. So you could for instance just open this image on a software like Photoshop and use the eyedropper tool to get the color coding, but you can actually also do that from within Chrome. So as you can see on the top right here, I have this extension installed named the eyedropper, and if I click here, pick color from web page, I can just select any of these colors right here. So for example this bright red in here, I can click there, and then if I open the eyedropper tool, right here it selected that color, and I can just copy this code and put it in our CSS. Now to download such a Chrome extension, you can simply go to Google and type in Chrome extension, and then go to the Chrome Web Store, and then right there in the search bar you can just type in color picker or eyedropper. And then there are many extensions that do pretty much the same thing. So you can just pick one, install it, and make sure here under extensions, you have the eyedropper tool pinned to your bar right here so you can easily access it. And then you can use it from anywhere within Chrome. So for right now, I want to change the background image of this website and I want to make it a very dark purple. So to do that, let's go to the eyedropper tool. I'm going to click pick color from web page and I'm going to click somewhere around here, which is a very dark purple, as you can see here. So this color we are going to use for the background of the web page, but then I want another color to contrast it and that fits with it nicely. And of course we could use the colors palette for it. We could also pick another color in here that we think looks good with this. So for example, I can already tell that this reddish color right here or this lighter purple would work really well with this dark purple, but we can also let ChatGPT produce a color for us. So I'm going to ask it, give me the CSS code to make the background color of my web page this color, and then I'm going to paste the color we just copied, and to make the color of the navbar something that goes well with that color. And I'm going to hit enter and see if it can do that for us. And there we go, so it gave us the CSS code for the body. Let's copy that first. And then let's go to our Visual Studio Code. And I don't think we have a CSS part for the body yet. No, so let's put that all the way at the top, right there. And let's hit Ctrl V. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S. And then let's also go to the other code it gave us. So for the navbar, it said background color and then this. But I think we already have this in our code, so we can just copy the color code itself that it provided us. And then right here in the navbar, it says background color transparent. So let's change that and hit Ctrl V and let's remove that T as well right there. And we can already see which color it picked for us. And it looks like it's going to be almost white with a little bit of orange in there, which is not too exciting, but it also gave us a text color right here. So let's copy that as well. And let's go to Visual Studio Code. And right here, it says the color for the text. So let's change that for the new color. And right here, we can see what it is. And it's sort of purplish as well. And actually, it looks like it gave us the same color for the text in the navbar as for the background of the page, which could look pretty nice. So let's hit Ctrl S and see what this looks like. And there we go. So that actually doesn't look too bad. Now if we scroll down right here, we can see that these sections all have their own background color, which doesn't look too nice right now. And actually what I would really like is if for this about section, there would be a fade of the color. So starting from this darkest color right here to our actually background color right here. So let's see if we can get that fade from ChatGPT. So first we are going to need to sample this even darker color right here at the very edge of the image. Let's click there and then let's go up here and copy that. And then let's go to ChatGPT and let's type, I want the color of my about section to fade from this color, and then I'm going to paste the color we just copied to this color, and then I'm going to grab this color that we used last time. This is the current CSS code for this section, and then I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code and go to the CSS of the about section, and that's right here. So let's copy that and let's paste that, and let's see if it can change that for us. So now it looks like it gave us this gradient from left to right, but we can just change that in the code to go from top to bottom. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code. Let's replace this section with a new one. And I think right here, if we just, instead of to right, to, let's see, to bottom, there we go. That will probably work. Let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And then let's see what that looks like. And there we go. And now of course our text is not readable anymore because it's very dark, but we do have this nice fade right here. And so for now, for this text, I would just use this color that we got for the navigation bar. So let's go to Visual Studio Code. Let's go to the color of the navigation bar text, which is right here. Let's copy that and let's go to the about section and let's type there color, and then let's hit Ctrl V to paste that color. And it's actually the wrong color. We actually need this one. So let's copy this one and let's go here again and replace this part. And then let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And let's see. And that looks pretty good. All right, so now there are a few more things I want to change to the design of this about section. And I also want to change this title right here as well. So let's go to ChatGPT and let's type in, now I want the about section to only take up 70% of the screen. And I want the, and let's see in our Visual Studio Code. So let's see in the about section. So we have this H2 and I want that to be in the center, and I also want it to be a different font. So let's go to ChatGPT. So I'm going to say I want the H2 of this section to be in the middle, and I want it to have a large, bulky sans serif font. Also give the paragraph of the about section a modern sans serif font and make the color of the text white. And let's hit enter and see what it gives us. And there we go. So let's copy this code and let's go to our Visual Studio Code. Let's go to the CSS and let's replace the about section of the CSS. There we go. And then let's again change this to right from to bottom, so that the gradient goes from top to bottom. And then let's quickly check. So right here it says dot about section, so that's a class about section, and then it refers to H2 and to P, and let's see if that's correct with our HTML code. And it looks like this H2 and this P are under the about section class, so that should all work. So let's go to the style.css, let's hit Ctrl S to save it, and let's see how that turned out. And there we go. So I think this about font is very nice. The only problem with the way we did this now is that it only takes up 70% of the screen, and behind that we are just going to have the background color, and the background color doesn't have this fade. So now it looks a little bit weird, but we can fix that later. And then right now this text is aligned in the center, which I don't really like because that doesn't read very nicely. So I'm going to make that, if we go to the CSS code, right here it says text aligned center, and I want that for the title of that section, but I don't want that for the text itself. So let's delete that and let's see what the options are. So if you just write colon right there, we can see what the options are, and let's just type left and let's hit a semicolon and let's hit Ctrl S to save that, and let's see. And there we go, that looks a lot nicer. Now let's actually also change the font of this section. So I'm just going to copy for now this about font right here and paste it in the welcome section. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code. In the about section, let's see where it says the font. So right here we have Arial Black, sans serif, and the font and the color. Let's select all of that and let's hit Ctrl C and let's go to the welcome section and let's take a look in our HTML. So right here we have this H1, AI powered design, and we don't have CSS for that yet. So let's go right here. Let's hit enter a few times to get a few more lines. Let's hit Ctrl V right here. So we already have the declarations, and then just copy this class welcome section. Let's hit Ctrl C and let's paste that in front of this. Let's hit Ctrl V there, and then let's hit space and type H1, and then let's give it some curly brackets, and let's put the bottom curly brackets on the bottom here. There we go. So that should now work for the title right there. That looks nice. And then let's also change this text to this text, and then we can maybe make it a little bit bigger. So let's go here, let's go to the about section and to the about section paragraph part, and then let's copy this font part right here. Let's copy all of that. Let's hit Ctrl C, and then let's go to the welcome section text part that we have there, and then let's hit enter and let's paste that right in between there. And now there are two color declarations, so let's delete one of them. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And actually, before we look at it, let's actually change this from 16 to 20, so it's just a little bit bigger, and let's hit Ctrl S and let's see what that looks like. And there we go, that looks nice. And actually, this fade on the about section is kind of annoying me, so I'm going to go to the Visual Studio Code, and right here we have that background color for the about section, and I'm actually going to copy this and hit Ctrl C, and then I'm going to go to the body part, and I'm going to change the body background to this fade. So let's hit Ctrl V, and now instead of background color, this is just going to be the background. So the background is the linear gradient, so let's delete this part, and that's the same as it was right here in the about section, just background, not background color. And then we can delete this part right here and hit Ctrl S, and let's see what that looks like. And there we go. So I'm just going to quickly copy this style of this title and this text to these other sections, and I'm also going to delete the background that they currently have. And there we go. Alright, so now there are a few more things that I want to change to this website in this lesson. First off, I want this navbar to stick to the top of our screen so that we scroll down, we still have the navbar. And then I'm also going to turn it back to being transparent, which will look really nice, I think. And then all the way at the bottom right here, this contact section, I want to change that to just links to our email or social media. So we're going to have these nice icons of, for instance, Gmail, Twitter, and Instagram. And then I'm also going to want a footer on this website, which I just noticed we don't have yet. So let's go to ChatGPT and I'm just going to add my whole HTML code in there so that it can edit it. So let's copy that and I'm going to paste that. And at the top, I'm going to write, this is the HTML code for my website. Change it so that the navbar sticks to the top of the screen even when scrolling. And also add a footer that is divided from the rest of the website by a thin white line. Also change the contact section to not be a form, but 3 small round buttons with a white background, which displays symbols of Gmail, Twitter and Instagram respectively in black. And when you hover over these buttons, they get a small shadow and the background color changes to bright purple. And I'm also going to add, make the button centered using Flexbox. And let's write a colon there and a space and let's hit enter and see if it can do that for us. Alright, so it gave us quite a bit already, but it didn't manage to finish it, so I'm just going to ask it to finish the code. Interesting, so it actually failed to continue, so just continued writing the about section of a random passage, but we did get quite a bit already, so let's just implement what we already have and then let's ask it again to fill in what it didn't give. So let's actually go to our Visual Studio Code and let's go to the CSS page and let's actually make this smaller and put this on the side here. And then let's add that screen to the side so we can see. So right here it gave HTML for the navbar. Let's see if that changed anything. And it looks like that all just stayed the same. So then here it gave us these style tags. So that's the CSS code. So let's go to the CSS. And it looks like it just added these top 3 parts. And that looks like it's going to fix it to the top. And it's going to be the whole width of the page. So let's copy that. And let's paste that right there. Ctrl V. Alright, so now the navbar should be fixed to the top. So let's save that. And let's see right here. And if we scroll, as you can see, the navbar is still stuck to the top, which is exactly what we wanted. And now for the footer and the contact section, let's just ask that separately to ChatGPT. So I'm going to type, give the HTML and CSS for a simple footer that only contains a copyright 2023 statement. Make the background black and add a white separation line to the top of the footer. And let's hit enter. And there we have it. So let's copy this CSS and let's paste that all the way at the bottom of our CSS file. There we go, and let's hit Ctrl V. And then let's go to this HTML part. Let's copy that as well. And let's hit Ctrl S here. Let's go to the HTML code and all the way at the bottom, just above the closing body tag. Let's hit Ctrl V to paste that. Let's hit Ctrl S to save that as well. And let's go to the website and see how that turned out. And as you can see right here, we have just this small footer styled exactly the way we wanted to style it. And now let's also ask ChatGPT to do the contact section for us with the 3 buttons leading to Gmail, Twitter and Instagram. So let's go to ChatGPT and I'm going to type, give the HTML and CSS code for a section with 3 small round buttons with a white background displaying the symbols of Gmail, Twitter and Instagram respectively in a bright purple color, and when you hover over the buttons, the background color will turn to dark purple and a small shadow is added to the buttons. Center the buttons in a row quite close to another using Flexbox. And let's see if it can do that for us. Alright, so there we go. So here we have the CSS of the section and here we have the HTML. Now below here it says, this code assumes that we have Gmail, Twitter and Instagram symbols as pictures that it's going to use. But we don't have that, so I'm going to ask it if there's another option. So it suggested using these symbols. Now I'm going to ask if there's a different way. And there we go. So here it gives us 3 options of how we can display the actual logos of Gmail, Twitter and Instagram. So I'm just going to use the first HTML code that it gave us right here, and then I'm going to add these symbols in between those tags. So let's copy this code and let's go to our HTML and to the contact section right here. And I'm going to replace the form that we have right there with the new buttons. So I'm going to paste that right there, and then I'm going to scroll to these symbols. So I'm going to copy that. So that's the first one, the Gmail part, and I'm going to place that in between those division tags. It's Ctrl V, and let's do that for the other 2 as well. There we go, and let's hit Ctrl S, and then I'm going to copy the CSS code that it gave us the first time. Right there. That should probably all work together. So let's go to the style, let's go to the contact form section. So that's right here. So I'm going to keep the H2 and the paragraph of that, because we don't want to change those styles, but I am going to replace this part. And let's hit Ctrl V to paste that. And let's remove this double comment title, and let's hit Ctrl S and see if that all worked. And right here it looks like it didn't load in those symbols. So let's go to ChatGPT, and it says right here we are using icons from Font Awesome, which provides this collection of icons. And it says right here we have to include the Font Awesome library. So I'm just going to copy this part and hit Ctrl C, and I'm going to paste that in there, and I'm going to start it with how can I, and then it's going to say how can I include the Font Awesome library in my project, and use the respective icon class to display the icons in my buttons. And let's hit enter and see if it can tell us how to do it. Alright, so it looks like right here we can either link to this online style sheet of Font Awesome, or we can download it and reference that icon library. Now I want to link to it, so I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to put that in our head tag as ChatGPT is telling us. So right here, let's hit enter and Ctrl V, and there we go. So now we're linking to this. And then right here it also explains us how we can create this in our contact section, and I think we did it right. And actually here it is a button instead of this division. So let's copy this part and let's replace what we have here, and hit Ctrl V to paste that, and let's hit Ctrl S to save it, and let's see how that turned out. Great, so now we have those icons in here exactly the way we want it. Now the color is not the best yet, and I actually want them to be a little bit bigger. So let's go to our CSS, and now actually because these icons are part of a font package, to make them larger we have to increase the font size, as you can also see as it's suggested here in the CSS code. And first off, I want the shadow that we get when we hover over it to not be gray but black. So let's go here and drag that to be black. There we go. And actually, as you can see right here, now it's using these classes .gmail, and if we go to our HTML, we don't have those classes anymore because we changed the HTML code, and now it's button Gmail. So to get that CSS to be connected to this, we can copy this first button and the space part and go to our CSS, and right here we can paste that, and here as well, and here as well. And let's hit Ctrl S to save that, and let's go here, and that already makes it look a little bit nicer. And then we can increase the font size of those icons. So let's go here and let's copy this part again, and we can paste that right there, and right there as well. Let's hit Ctrl S to save it, and let's see what that did. And I'm not sure if that actually changed it, so let's increase the font size of just the Instagram one to 40, and let's hit Ctrl S, and it doesn't look like that changes it. And maybe instead of putting the font and the color right here, let's hit Ctrl Z until we've deleted all of them there, and let's add them in contact section .button instead. So let's put them right there, and it's Ctrl S to see if that changes it, and that does changes it. Very nice. And now let's change this color right here to something a little bit darker, something like that, and hit Ctrl S. And there we go. Now we have this very nice contact section with just very simple buttons right there. And if we have Instagram and Twitter and Gmail, we can of course ask ChatGPT to link these buttons to those links that we have of those platforms. But for now, this will be fine. Alright, so I hope you were able to follow along a little bit. We do see that right now it's getting a little bit more complicated in getting all the code, all the separate code that we get from ChatGPT to be linked properly to each other. But I hope the more simple examples of earlier on, as well as our explanation videos about CSS and HTML code, can help you understand how everything works, even if you're not writing the code yourself, but having ChatGPT produce all the code for you. And I hope you really start to see how you can really create anything using ChatGPT, even though you may have to ask it a few times. So that is it for this lesson. I think we made quite a bit of progress on our website, and in the next lesson we are going to continue working on this website, and we're also going to make it a little bit more interactive in that one as well. So see you in that lesson. Hi everyone, welcome to the next lesson. So in this one we are first going to make some quick design adjustments, and then we are going to make the website interactive as well. So for that second part we are going to work with JavaScript on this website. So first there are some design things that I want to fix. So first off, right here on the edge we have this standard margin, and right here in the footer you can see as well, all the way around the web page there is this small margin, and that's actually the default margin in HTML, and I want to delete that. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how can I delete the default margin and padding in my website, and let's hit enter. And there we go. So it looks like if we just add this to our CSS code, then it will set the default margin and padding to 0. So let's copy that code. Let's go to our CSS code right there, and let's put that all the way at the top, and let's Ctrl V and hit Ctrl S to save that and see if that fixes it. And there we go, so now it's completely to the edge, and here for the footer as well, completely to the edge. Now we do notice that some of these sections are now a little bit closer to each other, because the default padding and margin there is removed as well, but we can just manually add padding and margin there as well. So next I want to make the navbar transparent, and then I want to make the text of these tabs to be white, and I also want the font to be bold. So let's go to our CSS, and I think we can just manually change this real quick. So here we have the navbar, then we have the background color, and we can just remove this and type in transparent and hit Ctrl S and see if that did it. And there we go. Now of course we can't see the text anymore, so we have to change that font. So right here we have navbar A, and if we go to our HTML we can see that for the navbar this A is the link, and that also includes the tab itself. So the color of this is going to change the text. So if we go here to navbar A and the color, we can set that to be white like that, and it's Ctrl S, and now we are able to see the text. But now I also want to make them bold, and also if I hover over this, there's a small line that appears below it, and I want that to be white as well. So let's go here and let's see. So here we have this after and hover effect. So I think if we change this color to white, that should make that bar white as well. And there we go, that works. And now let's make the text bold. And to do that, let's ask ChatGPT, how do I make text bold in CSS? And there we go. So we can just copy this font weight part that's set to bold. And let's go right here to the navbar. Let's paste that, let's hit Ctrl S to save it, and let's go right here, and there we go. So now we have this nice bold font that's very easy to read, and it's transparent, and I think that looks really good. So now the next thing that I want to change is this sign up form right here. I want to make it look a little bit nicer, so I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to type make a sign-up form that looks professional, having an email address input and the sign-up button next to it. Make the sign-up button change from white to bright purple when you hover over it, and the text color from black to white. Make it responsive using Flexbox. And let's hit enter. Alright, so it looks like it gave us the CSS inline, and I actually wanted to separate the HTML from the CSS so we can easily add it to our HTML and CSS file. So I'm just going to copy what I said here, and I'm going to add to it, give me the HTML and CSS of a, and then the rest of the input, and let's hit enter and see if it will do that for us now. And there we go. And actually, when I just typed give me the HTML and CSS of a sign up form and then the rest, it actually started giving this same response with the CSS inline. So I changed it to give me the separate HTML and CSS, and then it did work. So here we have the HTML. Let's copy that and let's go to our code. Let's go to the HTML and to the sign up section. So right here we have the sign up section. Right here we have this form. So we can remove that part and paste the new part. And let's hit Ctrl S and go to ChatGPT again. And let's copy this whole CSS code right there. And then let's go to our style.css and let's go to the sign up section right here. And let's paste this code below it. And it should all work. So let's hit Ctrl S to save it and let's see what that turned out. And as you can see, that didn't work out very well. So somehow this text ended up here. And also this section I don't really like. So let's actually just go back to ChatGPT. So let's go back to our input right here and let's edit it. And let's actually try doing it a little bit different. So if we go to our HTML code, we can hit Ctrl Z to get our previous input back right there. And let's copy this section in HTML and let's go to ChatGPT and let's paste that right here. And then let's type give the CSS code for the form in the following section to make it look modern and professional. And let's hit enter. Alright, so there we go. So here it gives us the generic CSS code for the whole email list signup section, but we don't need that. And we also don't need the CSS of H2 and P because we already have that. But then for the form, the input and the button, we do need it. So let's just copy those parts. There we go. Let's hit Ctrl C and let's go to our Visual Studio Code to the CSS part. Let's hit Ctrl S here first. And let's go to the CSS and let's hit Ctrl Z right here to delete the CSS code it gave us last time. And let's hit Ctrl V right there to put the new in. And let's hit Ctrl S to save it. And let's see how that looks now. Alright, so that already looks a lot better. Now let's move this tab to the side here and our code to the left. And let's change some of these variables that it gave us. So first off, when we hover over it, it turns gray, but let's make that by going here. Let's make that something like this. There we go. And now if you hover over it, it turns this bright purple, or actually kind of pink. And then right here it says the width of the button is 50%. So 50% of this input is going to be the button, but let's change that to be only 30%. There we go. That already looks a bit nicer. And let's set the color of the button before we hover over it to be a darker purple. So let's go there and select that. There we go. And then let's also give this whole form a little bit of a padding. So right now, here we have this form. There's no padding around it, as you can see here as well. So let's copy this padding declaration right here and let's paste that below there. And let's set that to just be 30 pixels all around. So let's hit Ctrl S to save that and let's scroll down and there we go. So that looks pretty good. So that's it for the design changes I want to make in the website in this lesson. Now we're going to make this website interactive using JavaScript. So let's start off easy and make the navbar scroll smoothly as we've done before. So I'm going to copy the HTML code of the navbar right here. So here we have it. I'm going to copy that and paste it in ChatGPT and I'm going to type give the JavaScript to make this navbar scroll smoothly and let's hit enter. And there we go, so there we have the JavaScript. Looks pretty similar to what we've seen before. And let's also ask, since we haven't linked our JavaScript to our HTML yet, give the HTML to link to my script.js file. And there we go, so we can copy this link right here to our script.js file. And it's again telling us to put it just above the final body tag. So let's go to our HTML and let's scroll down to the body and just above there, let's paste that. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S and then let's copy the JavaScript code right there. And let's paste that in our JavaScript file that we already set up. And let's hit Ctrl S and let's go to our website. So let's see if it works. And there we go, it works perfectly. And let's see if it also works with the logo. So if we click the logo, we don't go to the top yet. So let's see if we can quickly change that. So let's put the JavaScript code on the right here, and let's grab the HTML on the left. So right here, as you can see in the JavaScript code, it's going to query. This query selector all is going to select all items with the class navlinks and the A reference. And if we look at our HTML, right here we have this navlinks class, and the image falls outside of that class. So that's not going to get selected by this query. So I think if instead of using this navlinks class, we use the navbar class, which is going to include both the image and the other links, then it should work for the image as well. So let's go right here and change this to be navbar and hit Ctrl S to save that. And let's go to our website and see if that works. So let's scroll down first, and then we should be able to scroll up. And it still doesn't work. So let's look at our code again. And right here, we have this reference of the image, and it says go to welcome section, and it should scroll to this welcome section. And I see there is a typo right there. In the ID, it's welcome section. So let's make that welcome section. And let's save that and see if that made it work. So right here, and let's scroll down, and we can scroll up. Awesome, so that works. Now the second thing about this website that I want to make interactive is right here in this welcome section. I want to add an arrow button, and if you click it, a new text appears that says this whole website was generated using AI. So once we click the button, this text will fade out and the other text will fade in. So let's go to ChatGPT and see if it can do that for us. So I'm going to type, this is the HTML code for my welcome section, colon, and then I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code, and let's copy this welcome section. Let's hit Ctrl C and let's paste that right there. And then I'm going to type make an arrow button using font awesome, because remember we used font awesome to create the logos for the Gmail, Instagram and Twitter buttons, and you can also use font awesome for other icons such as arrows. Below the welcome text, when this button is pressed, the button and welcome text will fade out and a new text will fade in on the same place saying this website is completely generated using AI. And let's hit enter and see if it can do that. Alright, so there we go. So here we have the updated HTML code. So let's copy this. There we go. And let's go to Visual Studio Code and let's paste this over that one. And let's hit Ctrl S. And then let's go to the JavaScript code it gave us right here. So let's click copy there and let's go to our JavaScript code. Let's paste this below that. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S there as well. And then it also gave us some CSS code and the generated text that's going to appear once we click the button. I actually want to have the same font as this welcome text right here. And as you can see, because we saved it, it already added this button in here. But let's go to the CSS code and to ChatGPT and let's copy this arrow icon CSS. Let's hit Ctrl C. And actually I just noticed it didn't finish the code. So let's ask it to finish the CSS first. And there we go. So let's copy this arrow icon part first. And let's go to our CSS code. And let's go to the welcome section. And below that right here, let's paste that. And let's go to ChatGPT again and let's copy the rest of this. And let's paste that right on top there. And let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And let's see how that looks in our website. So right here we have this arrow. It's pointing downwards right now, but we'll change that to point to the right. And let's click that. And it looks like if I hover over this that there is text, but it's actually invisible. So let's go to our code and see what could be wrong. So first off, maybe because we didn't put the CSS of the generated text in there, it could be that that caused it to not appear, because here it also says opacity 0, and I think that's used to make it appear and disappear. So let's hit Ctrl C there and let's just paste that in our CSS code right there. Let's hit Ctrl V and Ctrl S to save it, and let's see if it works now. So let's refresh. And let's click and it still doesn't work. So let's go again to our code and it looks like this is all right. So maybe the problem here is in this layout. So let's actually delete this part of the layout that ChatGPT gave us and let's copy the layout that we use for the current title. So let's copy these parts and let's paste that in here. Let's hit Ctrl S and see. There we go. So now if we refresh this and we click right there, this is going to appear. Now I actually wanted this to appear on the same place as this, but I think because we use Flexbox for this welcome section, so the display type for this welcome section is set to flex, as you can see here, and that's going to make this item a flex item and this item a flex item as well. And since right here in our JavaScript, it's going to only change the opacity of the items, so it's not going to completely remove them. So the title and the text and the button are still right here, but they just have an opacity of 0. And this one now has an opacity of 1 and vice versa when we don't press the button. So let's ask ChatGPT if there's a way to fix that. Instead of changing the opacity to make elements appear or disappear, is there a different way to actually remove the items from the page? And I'm going to hit enter. Alright, so here it tells us that we can use display none, as we also saw on our lesson on responsiveness. So we can use display none, for example, for small screens to hide elements. And now we can also use this to, instead of changing the opacity, we can just change the display to flex, as we have it right now, to display none when we want to remove that item. So let's go to our CSS code, and right here to the generated text, instead of opacity 0, let's set that to display :none. And let's write a semicolon. So now in the default situation, this generated text will not be displayed, which is exactly what we want. And then here in our JavaScript, it looks like right here, it says welcome text.style.opacity equals 0. And that's going to happen when we press the button. And let's instead change that to welcome text.style.display. And instead of setting that to 0, let's change that to none. And right here in the generated text.style.opacity, let's change that to .style.display as well. And then right here, let's set that display to be flex once the button is pressed. So let's hit Ctrl S to save that and see if that worked. So that already looks good that it's in the center right now. And let's click this arrow. And nothing happened. So I think maybe instead of just writing none, this has to be in quotation marks. So let's write quotation marks around there. And there as well. And let's hit Ctrl S to see if that worked. And there we go, and let's click. And there we go. So now of course we could spend a lot of time on formatting this text in combination with the background image to make it look a little bit nicer. But for now, let's just continue to the next part of this website that we're going to make interactive. So right now we're going to add an image slider to this project section. And instead of just having an image slider that when we press an arrow, it's going to give us the next image, I actually want to have an image slider on the left here, and on the right, I want to have a little text that goes with each image. And then I want to have the arrows below here. And once I go to the next image, the text should also go to the next one that corresponds to that next image. So let's go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to type make an image slider on the left and an H2 and paragraph on the right, with centered below the slider and text 2 arrow buttons using font awesome that when clicked move the current slide and fade out the current text and fade in the new text associated with the new image. The image should fit within a frame of 600 by 600 pixels, but it should keep its original aspects. Make the layout centered and responsive using Flexbox. And let's see if it can do all of that for us. Alright, so here we have our code. So here we first have the HTML code, so let's copy that and let's paste it in our HTML. So right here in the project section, let's hit Ctrl V to paste that HTML in there, and let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And then let's go back to ChatGPT and let's copy this CSS that goes with it. And let's go to the style.css and let's go to the project section right here and let's paste that and hit Ctrl S. And then let's go to the JavaScript code right there. So let's copy that code and let's go to the JavaScript, and below there let's hit Ctrl V and Ctrl S to save that. And then let's go to the HTML to also change the images. So right here it looks like the first image is placed. So let's change that to our background image. There we go, and let's hit Ctrl S, and it looks like the other images are actually referred to in the JavaScript code. So right here it creates this array with the different images that we want. So for the first image, let's change that to the background as well. And the second image, let's just make that the logo for right now. So that's going to be AI_logo.png. And then let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And let's see how that turned out. So right here you can see we have an image and we have the text on the side here. So let's look at our CSS code and see if we can change the layout a little bit. So let's actually put our code on the left right here and our website on the right so we can immediately see what we are doing. Then let's close this side window here and let's go to the CSS. So first off, it looks like the project section is set to flex. And if we go to our HTML, that's going to make this part, the title and the checkout our latest projects paragraph together one flex item, and this whole slider with the text as well, one flex item as well. So I actually want those to be on top of each other. So if we go to the CSS of the project section right here, we can set a flex direction to be a column, and let's save that. And that already makes it a little better. Now right here it looks like it made the slider container a flex container as well. So let's look at our HTML code, and here we have this slider container. And right now the image slider itself is a flex item. This whole text part right here is a flex item. And these two arrows are flex items under that same flex container. So that would probably mean that the arrows that we don't see right now are somewhere on the side. So to change that, we can give these arrows their own division. So let's go right here. Let's hit Shift Tab to move to the left. Let's write opening tag division. And let's make a division right there. And let's hit Enter. And let's put these two arrows right here in between that, and let's make sure that's formatted nicely. There we go. So now these left arrows and right arrows no longer fall under this slider container class. So let's hit Ctrl S, and let's now actually also look at our JavaScript code to make sure we didn't mess up anything here. So it looks like it just selects those arrows using just the arrow left and arrow right class, so nothing will change here. And actually we also have to move this tag right here, the closing tag, above to right there, and then let's hit Enter, and now it is formatted properly. So let's hit Ctrl S to save that, and it still doesn't show us our buttons. So let's go back to the CSS, and right here let's also give these arrows a color so that we can more easily see them. So let's write color and let's make that white, and let's hit Ctrl S, and let's go to our website. And actually right here you can see it placed the arrows. So right now if we have it here, if we click this, it is going to work. We just have to figure out how to get those arrows down here. So let's go to our CSS code again, and it looks like right here it says position absolute, and I think that's what's causing it to be stuck right there. So let's delete that right there, and let's hit Ctrl S to save it. And right here we now have these two buttons right here, and if we press them, the image changes and the text changes as well. So it took a little bit of trial and error, but we got there in the end. Alright guys, so it took about 20 minutes and I went ahead and made some changes to the layout to make the website look a bit more put together, and I added some content to the project section. I generated 3 images and had ChatGPT write some small texts. All of the changes I made was simply using some CSS code we already used in one section and applied it to another section. And I also just changed some values, for instance color or font or padding, to make everything look a bit better. So everything I did here to make it look good, you should be able to do as well if you have been keeping up with your own website. So this is going to be it for the design of the website. You now have the tools to keep working on your own website in terms of content, appearance and interactivity. In the next lesson we are going to upload this website to our SiteGround hosting, and then we are also going to make the email list work through the online hosting, and we will make it so that when people sign up for the email list they get a file download. So for your own website you can offer some free value in exchange for people's emails. See you in the next lesson. Alright guys, welcome to the next lesson. So in this one we are going to make this email list sign up work with our SiteGround server, or whichever server you are using. So in this tutorial we are going to use SiteGround, but most of the steps will be very similar regardless of what hosting you are using. So first off, let's log into our account. And once you are logged in, you can go to websites, and then right there you should see the domain that we made earlier in this section. And then let's go click on Site Tools. And once you're in the Site Tools on the left here, if you click on Site, you will get the file manager right here, where in the public HTML we should still have all the files of our first website. But then right here on the left we have MySQL. And if you click that and go to the tab Databases, we can create a new database right here. And that is what we are going to use to store the emails similar to how we did on the local host using XAMPP earlier in this course. So let's click create database, and this created a database with a random unique name. Now right here we can click create user, and then let's click create user again, and that automatically creates a user login or a username and a password as well. And we are going to use that in our PHP code to connect to this database, similar to how we did in the previous website. Now before we start creating the code to make this work, let's first go to manage access, and let's make sure all privileges is selected so we can actually access this database. And let's hit confirm. And now let's also first set up the table that we are going to import the email addresses into. So let's go to phpMyAdmin right here and click access phpMyAdmin. So right now this should look familiar to you. Now on the top left here, we have the database that was created for us. And if we click on that, we can create our table. So let's name that table email list. And right now we are not going to collect the names of our website visitors. We only want their email address. And that's going to make them much more likely to actually leave their email address with us. So we are only going to need 2 columns. So the first column is going to be the index, just a number that's going to keep track of all of the email addresses. And then the second column is just going to be the email address, and let's click go. And then here we can format the table. So first we are going to have the index or the ID. So let's type ID, and that is going to be an integer, so just whole numbers. And then right here, let's make sure AI, that is auto increment, is selected. So with every new entry, 1 is going to be added to this value. And then for the second column, let's name that email. And that's not going to be an integer, that's actually going to be a varchar, which is the standard variable type for text. And then for the length, let's make that 50, so that people are allowed to enter an email address of length 50 characters. So that's it for the formatting of the table. Let's hit save. And now we can start writing the code to make sure this email list is actually connected to that table that we just created. Alright, so to get that code, let's go to ChatGPT and let's type in, I want to connect this sign-up form. And then I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code, to the HTML of the sign-up section right here. So here we have this form, and let's copy that. And let's paste that in ChatGPT. And now it says I want to connect this sign up form, and then we have the form. And then let's type to a table in phpMyAdmin. Please give the code to do this. And I'm going to hit enter. And there we go. So first it returned our HTML code, and it added this action submit form.php, and that's the file that we have to make. And then right here it gives us the code for exactly that file. So let's first copy this HTML code and let's replace it in our own code right there. And then let's copy this submit.php, and let's go to the top left here and create a new file and hit Ctrl V to paste that name and hit enter. And there we go. So here we have an empty PHP file. So let's go back to ChatGPT and let's copy this whole code and let's paste that in here. So let's hit Ctrl S here, and let's hit Ctrl S in the HTML as well. And then let's go back to the PHP, and right here you can see we have to fill in the username, the password, and the database name. And that's also what ChatGPT tells us we have to change. So if we go back to phpMyAdmin, and actually I forgot that right here in SiteGround, if we create a user, we can't see the password anymore. So since we didn't save it, it's best to just delete this user and create a new user right there. So right here we can see the password, so let's copy that, Ctrl C, and go to our PHP file, and for the password let's paste that right there. There we go. And then let's go to the username, let's copy that as well. There we go. And let's paste that right there. And then the database name we can also find here on SiteGround. If we go to databases, right here we have the name of the database, so let's copy that. There we go. And let's paste that right there as well. And then right here, it's going to insert it into the sign-up table. And if we go to ChatGPT, it says we need to create a sign-up table in the database, but what we actually called it is email list. So we can just replace that in the PHP file. So instead of sign-up underscore table, we are going to make that email underscore table. And let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And right now we should be able, if we place all of these files in our SiteGround hosting, so if we go back to SiteGround, right here we have the file manager and we have the public HTML. Here we have all the files of our first website, so we can just delete those. So we can click the top one, and while holding shift click the bottom one. That's going to select all of them, and then we can click delete right there, delete 30 items, confirm. And if you don't want to delete them but archive them instead, that's also possible if you had clicked right here. So right here I have all the files of the website, and we can just select all of them and drag them right into here and copy them in here. And then once they are uploaded and you make sure that the first page is called index.html, this website should be online. So let's take a look and let's type in your domain name. And if it doesn't show up the way it is supposed to, we can go to Site Tools. And here in the left menu, we can go to Speed and then Caching. And then if we go to Dynamic Cache, we can flush the cache right here. And then if we go back to our website and refresh it, then it should all look right as it does for us. So let's see if all the JavaScript is also working. So there we go. And also at the end of the last lesson, I added this button right here. That brings us to the About section. And let's see if this scrolls smoothly. That works as well. And let's see if this works. And it also seems to work. Very nice. And then right now, this email sign up should also work. So let's type in abc@hotmail.com and let's hit sign up. And it looks like right here we don't have access to this database. So let's go to Site Tools again and let's go to MySQL right there. And it looks like we haven't added the user to this database yet. So let's click Add New User. And then we have this user selected. It's the only one. And then let's make sure all privileges is selected and let's hit Confirm. And now this user is added. So now we should be able to sign up. So let's hit refresh right here. Let's hit continue and let's actually delete this submitform.php extension and let's just go to our website. There we go. Let's go to the sign up section and let's type in abc@hotmail.com and let's hit sign up. And right now it's telling me email table doesn't exist. So let's go to PHP My Admin and it looks like we made a mistake. So here it's called email list, and in our PHP code, let's look right here. We call it email table, so let's change that here. So let's make that email list and let's hit Ctrl S. And now this isn't going to automatically update to our SiteGround because here we pasted the previous version of the file, but we can actually edit it in here as well. So let's go to submitform.php and let's double click that. And that's going to bring us to this editor. And right here we can also change email table to email list. And here we can hit Ctrl S as well to save it. And let's close that. And then let's go back to our website. So let's delete this and hit enter. And let's again go to the sign up section and let's type abc@hotmail.com and let's hit enter. And it says new record created successfully. So let's go to PHP My Admin and see if it's actually in there. So if we go to browse right here we can see the table and we can see abc@hotmail.com is saved in there. So that's very nice. But what's not very nice is that once we sign up, we are sent to this different page. And what I would actually like is if after submitting, we could actually just stay on that page. And then later what we are going to add, of course, is once we sign up, we are first going to stay on the same page. And then we are also going to add a download. So a PDF will automatically be downloaded once people sign up. So to do that, we can implement Ajax in our website. Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. The only thing we want to understand about this asynchronous part is that the website can make requests to the database without having to reload or leave the page. And this is perfect for making the page more user-friendly with, for instance, sign-up forms. Ajax uses either the XML or JSON language to help it transport data between systems and services. You can implement Ajax simply in the JavaScript file we already have, but the functions and methods that Ajax uses are not available in the default JavaScript. So to get those functions, we have to link to the jQuery library in our HTML file. So let's ask ChatGPT to implement Ajax for us. So first I'm going to say, this is my current form, and then we can just copy the one it sent us right here because this is the one we have in our code. And let's paste that. And I'm going to type, make it so that when people submit the form, they can stay on the same page using Ajax. And let's hit enter. Alright, so there we have it. So right here, it gave us this form again, and it made a small change. So now the form does not refer to the PHP file anymore, but it added this JavaScript. So right here, you see the script to connect to the jQuery library. And then right here, we have some JavaScript code that uses Ajax, as you can see here. And then it looks like this JavaScript right here refers to the sign-up form. And in the JavaScript, in turn, a connection is made to the PHP file. So let's first copy this HTML part right here, the form, and let's go to our Visual Studio Studio Code, let's go to the HTML and let's replace the form that we have right now, like that. And then let's go back here and let's copy this connection to the jQuery library. Now let's actually ask ChatGPT where we have to place this. And there we go, so it looks like we can put it in our head section or just before the closing body tag. So let's do that. So let's copy that link again and let's go to our Visual Studio Code and let's put it just above our link to our JavaScript. There we go, and let's hit Ctrl S there. And then let's go to ChatGPT and let's copy this JavaScript code right here. So that's going to be this whole section. Let's hit Ctrl C and let's go to our JavaScript. And all the way at the bottom right here, let's add that. And let's hit Ctrl S there as well. And let's now also make those changes on our SiteGround files. So let's open script.js. And let's scroll down here and let's paste it here as well. And let's hit Ctrl S. Then let's go to index.html. Let's double click that. Let's go down to the signup form right here. And let's again copy that right here. Ctrl C, and let's paste that over this one. There we go, and let's make sure that's formatted a little bit nicer. And then let's also copy the link to the jQuery library right there. Let's copy that and let's place that right there above the link to the JavaScript file. Let's hit Ctrl S to save this one as well. And let's close these two files. And let's see if that works. And let's type def@hotmail.com. And let's hit enter. And so that brought us to the same page. And now let's check if our email address is also actually saved. So let's go to MySQL to phpMyAdmin and let's access phpMyAdmin. And to the top left here, let's go to the database and to our email list. And there we go. So now the form works and we can stay on the site while we use it. But now once we submit the form, we just stay here and there's no confirmation that it actually submitted. So people may not know that it actually worked. So they may click here multiple times. And as you can see right here, if we refresh this, that's going to cause a lot of unnecessary entries. So let's change that. Let's go to ChatGPT and I'm going to type in, this is the JavaScript I use to make sure people stay on the same page when they submit a form. And then I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code to the script.js file and copy this section for the form. And let's paste that right there. And then I'm going to write, make it so that when the form is submitted, the form disappears and the text saying sign up successful appears in its place. And let's hit enter. And there we go, so it gave us the HTML of a sign up successful text that appears after we sign up. And it looks like right here, after the sign up is successful, the sign up form is hidden and the sign up success message is shown. And otherwise, this code is just the same. So let's copy this code. And then let's go to our SiteGround. Let's go to the file manager and to the JavaScript file. Let's double click that. And then let's replace the current signup form code like so. And let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And then let's also go to index.html. And let's go to ChatGPT again. And let's copy this code. And let's go to Site Tools again. And let's place that just below the signup form right here. So let's place that there. And let's hit Ctrl S. And let's actually make sure that that's formatted nicely, like so. And then let's hit Ctrl S again. And let's go to our website. Let's refresh that. And let's type in an email. Let's do ghi@hotmail.com this time. And let's click sign up. And that doesn't seem to work just yet. So let's maybe try to flush the cache again. So right here, let's go to caching, dynamic cache, and let's hit flush cache. There we go. And then let's refresh this website. And let's try again. And let's hit submit. And that still doesn't work. Now sometimes with these forms, you have to actually delete your browser history in order for updates to come through. So let's do that. So to do that, you can go to the top right and hit history. And then if you go to history, right here on the left, you can hit clear browser data. And then if you just do that for the last 24 hours or so, that should be sufficient. So now let's go back to our website. Let's refresh it again. And let's see if it works now. And there we go. So now the sign up form disappears and the sign up successful text appears. So that's important to keep in mind if you're going to work on your own form and updates don't come through. Before trying to change something to your code, you should always first try to clear your browser history and flush the cache as well. So that already works nicely. Now let's try to add the PDF download to this. Alright, so now first of all, if we are going to give a free digital product, such as a PDF when people sign up with their email, we do want to make sure that people can only enter valid emails. So right now, for instance, if we just click this without filling anything in, it will also work. So let's first fix that. So let's go to ChatGPT and I'm going to type, I want my form to only accept valid emails. How do I do that? And let's hit enter. Awesome, so right here, it changed the JavaScript code a little bit, and before submitting the form using the PHP, it is first going to check if the email is valid, which is exactly what we want. So let's copy this code and let's go to our SiteTools file manager and let's open the JavaScript file. And then right here at the bottom, let's replace the current script for the form that we have. So let's hit Ctrl V and paste that, and let's hit Ctrl S to save that. And then I'm going to again delete my browser history and flush the website and see if it works. There we go. So let's see if we can just click sign up right now. And we can't, so now we get this pop-up that says please enter a valid email address. So let's try typing something random and let's click sign up. Awesome, and now we get this different pop-up that says we need to use an @ in our email address. So let's type hello@hotmail.com and let's hit sign up. And there we go. Alright, so now that that works, so people are not just able to click the button and get the download, we can now actually add the download to this. So let's go to ChatGPT. Alright, so I'm just going to start a new chat on ChatGPT and then I'm going to go to our index.html file. There we go, and then I'm going to copy the form that we have right here in our HTML, and let's copy that and let's go to ChatGPT and let's type this is the HTML of my form, and then I'm going to paste it, and then I'm going to type, and this is the associated JavaScript that makes sure when submitted people stay on the same page and only valid emails are allowed, and the form disappears and the message saying it was successful appears. And then I'm going to go to our JavaScript and I'm going to copy the part of that form that we've been working on. So let's copy that and let's paste that right here. There we go. And then I'm going to add, and this is the PHP that connects the form to the server. And then I'm going to go to SiteGround again, go to the PHP file. There we go. And let's copy all of that. There we go. And then let's paste that in ChatGPT. And then finally, I'm going to ask, when the form is submitted and the email is valid, I want there to be a PDF download in the browser. How do I do this? And then I'm going to hit enter and see if it can do that for us. Alright, so it didn't give a description of what it is doing and where I have to make adjustments to the code, so I'm going to ask it that. Alright, so it looks like it changed the PHP code and the JavaScript code, and the only thing we have to change about this is the path to the PDF file. So let's copy this code. Let's first start with this JavaScript part. So right here, it didn't copy the whole JavaScript. It started at the Ajax function. So let's go to SiteTools and let's go to script. And right here, we can copy this over this Ajax part. And let's actually see how many brackets it gave us. So there's two sets of brackets right here. So we've selected it correctly right now. So let's hit Ctrl V to paste that. There we go. And let's hit Ctrl S to save it. Then let's go to the PHP part. So right here, it also didn't give us the full PHP code back. It starts with this if statement. So let's copy everything below that, including the if statement. And let's hit Ctrl C. And then let's go to SiteTools to submit form PHP. And then right here, we have that if statement. So let's select everything below that and let's hit Ctrl V to paste that over there. And let's hit Ctrl S to save it. And right here I see we also have to change the name of our PDF file, and I actually already went ahead and created this example PDF file. And of course, for the actual PDF you're going to give away on your website, you can use a software like Adobe InDesign to create a very nice formatted PDF, but you can actually also turn any website into a PDF file, and you can simply do that by right mouse clicking on it, click print, and then on the top right, instead of printing it, make sure print to PDF is selected, and for me it's going to be Microsoft print to PDF, and if you are using an Apple product it will be something equivalent, but then it will actually just copy and turn into a PDF your whole website, as you can see here, and then you can just click print, and that's not going to print it, but it's just going to save it as a file on your computer. And then once you have that PDF file, you can just upload it to your site files, as you can see I did right here. So right here, everywhere it says PDF file.pdf, I'm going to change that to example-pdf, and I'm actually going to copy that. And right here we have to set the path to the PDF file, and I'm going to set that to be ChatGPT webdesign.com/example-pdf. And you can see if we go to our website and we type in here /example-pdf.pdf and hit enter, we are actually going to go to this PDF that I created of the website. So let's return from there for now, and let's go back to Site Tools. So this link should work right here, and this file name should also be correct. And then let's go to the script, and then let's scroll down here, and right here we also have to change it. So let's change this to be example-pdf, and let's hit Ctrl S to save it. And let's make sure this PHP form is also saved. There we go, and now I'm going to again delete my browser data and flush the cache of the website, and then we'll see if this works. And there we are again, so let's scroll down to the email list, and let's fill in an email, and let's hit sign up. And there we go. There we have our PDF download. Alright guys, so we have now created the blueprints or the foundations for a great lead generating website. We are able to fill it with any content we want. We can use interactivity, using image sliders for instance, and eventually we are able to lead people to sign up with their email address and actually generate the lead, if of course we have provided enough value for the visitor. So that is going to be it for this section of the course, where we create our amazing website. I look forward to seeing what kind of beautiful websites you guys are going to be able to make, and I'll see you in the next lesson.